Good morning, fathers of daughters. This is Ephraim B. Martin. Welcome to Girl Dad YouTube channel. Another Sunday, another live stream. I apologize. I was supposed to go on about 10:30 this morning. So hopefully I got them all resolved. Oh, we're here. And hopefully I was freezing earlier. So hopefully we got the internet issues resolved. Okay, fathers, today is another live stream, and we're going to be discussing why parents fail their children. Okay, and all fathers are welcome, regardless of your ethnic group, background, and/or culture. To all my Spanish-speaking, bienvenidos, en aquí, gracias. So, fathers, appreciate you being here. And the reason I want to talk about when parents fail their children, fathers, is because, we're living in a world today where so many of our children are just out there existing and are not taking accountability for their kids on a lot of different levels. So I would like to address, how parents fail their kids on many levels, anywhere from school to the rearing of their children to just being disconnected from their kids. So that's what I would like to talk about today, fathers. And I'm not here to point the finger at anyone. I just want to have an open, honest discussion. I have about 8 good videos I want to share with you today, discussing the many situations that we're going to be faced with as dads, as parents, with our children, and what our responsibilities are as far as rearing them and raising them. We have a great responsibility, fathers. So that's what I want to discuss today. Feel free to make comments and let me know what your opinions are, fathers, because it's very important for Girl Dad YouTube channel in order to continue to grow organically. My book, Daddy's Girls, as you can see, is available at Amazon.com. It's in both the right-hand corner and the left-hand corner. So, fathers, when we talk about parents failing their kids, it begins at infancy, it begins at birth. And as fathers of daughters, we have a great responsibility, birth to 10 years of age, to make sure that we get this right. Going to be sharing with you is from a 1965 study. It goes back to 1965. Actually, when I was doing my research, I came across this video. I thought it was appropriate, and I thought it would be a great video to lead off this live stream because I was born in 1965. So to have such a valuable video for me is a blessing, because it's going to go back 59 years. I'm 59 years of age, and it's going to show you what was going on in 1965. Now, the videos, it's in French, but there's English subtitles. So you could follow with the English subtitles. It's about a 6-minute video. But I wanted to share it because I thought it was a very, very interesting and very, very, very video. As far as parents and showing what happens when there's a detachment of kids under 2 years of age. And it's a good video. So I'm noticing that I'm still freezing on my live stream. So I apologize for that. There's nothing else more I can do. I've done all the troubleshooting I could do for today. So hopefully I won't freeze entirely throughout this live stream, but I am noticing that I'm still freezing. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's get this let's get these videos going, and let's have a good live stream today. All right, here we go, fathers. First video.
Emmanuel, élevé dans sa famille, est avide de saisir tout objet nouveau en vue d'une exploration active. Le passer d'une main à l'autre, le porter à la bouche, par exemple. Totalement absorbé par ces manipulations, l'enfant prête peu d'attention à son entourage. Christine, régulièrement confiée à une crèche de jour, ne semble pas présenter un comportement différent de celui de l'enfant précédent. Elle saisit les cubes des 2 mains, essaie de les superposer, les récupère quand ils tombent. Elle aussi est tout absorbée par son jeu. Ces 2 exemples nous ont montré le cas d'enfants dont les conditions familiales offrent toute sécurité. Par contre, lorsque ces conditions sont défavorables, au point de nécessiter un retrait et une hospitalisation, le comportement du nourrisson va s'en ressentir, ainsi qu'en témoigneront les séquences suivantes. Caroline, dont la mère s'est médiocrement souciée, est anorexique. Cet enfant porte bien la main à un cube, mais en fait elle s'y intéresse faiblement. Très souvent, elle jette un regard interrogateur autour d'elle. Son exploration reste active, mais elle semble surtout préoccupée par son entourage. Dans les cas qui vont suivre, le souci croissant de l'environnement et l'inquiétude décuplée auront pour corrélatif un amoindrissement de l'attention prêtée au jeu. Par exemple, Véronique, également anorexique, manifeste son refus en écartant ses mains d'un geste d'évitement. Si finalement elle saisit un cube, les regards inquiets qu'elle jette autour d'elle témoignent de son anxiété. Son attitude est figée, elle ne joue pas. Jean, retiré très tôt à sa famille et hospitalisé après plusieurs placements, épie attentivement les gestes du psychologue. La carence affective dont cet enfant a souffert semble faire primer chez lui le besoin de contact social qu'on pourrait motiver par le désir intense de l'enfant de trouver un substitut maternel. L'intérêt porté aux objets nouveaux est nul. Il acceptera sans résistance, mais sans intérêt véritable, le cube que l'on place dans sa main. René, dont le cas est similaire, se tient immobile devant les cubes. Au bout d'un moment, il fait mine d'en saisir un, mais il est en proie à une angoisse telle que peu à peu, il se désintéressera totalement et du jeu et de son entourage. Épuisé, il s'absorbe en lui-même et se réfugie dans une satisfaction haute. Sucer son pouce. Annette, qui est aussi anorexique, a l'attitude figée. Son désintéressement est presque total. L'anxiété grandissante se traduit par des mouvements de lèvres, des clignotements et par une respiration irrégulière. L'autisme se lit dans le regard vague de cette petite fille. Nous retrouvons chez Colette, privée d'affection et de soins, les mêmes symptômes d'autisme et d'anxiété. Gestes figés, respiration haletante. Ainsi donc, la carence affective suscite chez le nourrisson non seulement l'angoisse, bien connue des psychologues, mais elle favorise, en présence d'objets nouveaux et dans des situations inaccoutumées, une inhibition parfois doublée d'autisme dans les cas les plus graves.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts on that video? I thought it was appropriate to show, and as you can see, even back in 1965, when they were studying babies, you know, these are some children that have been institutionalized in foster care, taken from their parents, which is it's crazy. You know, when I probably watched that video a good 5 times, and it was heartbreaking to see the detachment of children. And you know, children know. And I just think it was a great study, excellent video. And this is what parents have to see, and we have to be aware of the possibility of detachment with our babies when they're little kids. I mean, you know, and as they get older, it only gets worse. So I thought it was, like I said, it was a great video. I'm glad I came across it, and just to see these babies, you know, these little kids, just be detached and have anxiety. Pretty much, you know, they're not even toddlers yet. So I just wanted to share with you, fathers, and give you an introduction, and you know, see what your thoughts are on that. Okay. The next video I'm going to share is talking about detachment as well, and you know what happens when kids don't get love when they're little, when they're babies, and you know what can happen. So that's the next video that I'm getting ready to share with you. And like I said, there's so many ways that kids could be detached from their parents and end up growing up into becoming cold adults because of the love they didn't get from their parents. So, my 4 adult daughters, I loved them and couldn't get enough of them, and showed them affection and validation every day that I had them in my life. Birth to 18 fathers. So these videos I'm sharing with you today are very, very important. Girl Dad YouTube channel is all about working with fathers, helping fathers understand our sense of urgency. Birth to 18 years of age. My book, Daddy's Girls, covers that. My live streams and my book are complementary of each other. So feel free to get my book. Feel free to definitely share, subscribe, like, share my live streams. And feel free to comment, fathers, because Grow That YouTube channel is here for you. I provide educational and informational resources through instruction. And this is my way of giving back to fathers. So I feel honored and I'm blessed to be here before you. Okay, fathers, let's take a look at the second video.
A central fact about early childhood is that babies are born into the world entirely at the mercy of others. They have no native strength, intelligence, or utility. They cannot fight or complain, walk away or argue their case. Their survival depends solely on their capacity to look up from their cots with vast, innocent, beautiful eyes and charm their parents into caring for them. It's their power to attract love that ensures they will be fed and clothed, protected and kept alive. In exchange for this nurture, young children readily offer their parents or caregivers unconditional admiration. They naturally adore and are boundlessly impressed by those who pick them up and bathe them, warm their milk and change their sheets. They are in awe at these giant people who know how to turn on a washing machine and kick a ball over a tree. There is, at this stage, no innate desire whatever to question or doubt figures of authority. Given what is at stake, it follows that small children are instinctively hugely sensitive to how well they are doing at getting their admired protectors on their side. If they feel they are loved, they can relax into themselves and get on with the many other pressing priorities of early childhood, working out how to eat solids, figuring out what a plug socket is, how a button functions, what words are and how soap bubbles form. But if love is in more restricted supply, the picture grows a whole lot more complicated. There are childhoods in which, for a variety of reasons, parents fail to be charmed as they might be. They leave the baby to scream, they shout at one another. There might be violence and hysteria, lethargic despair and terror. The young child knows instinctively it is in grave danger. If the situation is not somehow corrected, in extremis, it may be left on a hillside to die. At this point, our biology initiates a desperate yet darkly logical process. The young child starts to try a lot harder. It redoubles its efforts to charm, to be good, to do what could be expected of it, to smile, to ingratiate itself. It wonders what may be wrong with itself to explain the parental disapproval and harm, and doesn't feel any alternative but to search in its own character and behavior for answers. At the same time, the child resists what might, from an adult perspective, seem like the obvious move, to get annoyed with and blame the adults in the vicinity who are not looking after it as they should. But such a bold thought does not belong to the defenselessness of the early years. We are in no position to mount a challenge to our protectors when we can hardly reach the door handle, let alone turn on a tap. We need to have our own front door key and bank account before cynicism is a realistic option. It is far more intuitive to wonder why we are horrid than to complain of being unfairly and unkindly treated. Small children therefore naturally turn injury done to them into dislike of themselves. They ask not so much, why does my parent fail to care for me, as how might I have failed this admirable person? They hate themselves rather than doubt those who should be protecting them. Shame replaces anger. It feels on balance like the safer option. A vicious spiral of self-hatred then sets in. The unloved growing child wonders constantly about their faults. Their parent may be alcoholic, narcissistic, sadistic, or depressed. They may never cook a proper meal or shout intemperately from their bedroom. But none of that matters in the slightest. The parent cannot be envisaged as anything other than substantially impressive. To explain the lack of love from the paragons of parenthood, it must be that the child is an awful person. They must be stupid and mean, selfish and slow, physically repulsive, and irritating and shallow. As childhood gets left behind, much of this dynamic is forgotten. The adolescent and young adult overlooks exactly what went on. They cannot necessarily think clearly of the early years, and parental figures may be keen that they never do so. The former child can't tell anymore that their feeling of shame has specific origins. It can feel like something they might have been born with, a natural phenomenon, like bad weather or the flu. Liberation awaits us when we dare to take on board a highly implausible idea, that our self-hatred, far from being inevitable, is an internalization of early deprivation, and that far from needing to revere and admire those who denied us love, we are in a position to understand, to question, to be annoyed, and to mourn what we did not receive. We are not so despicable after all. We've just, till now, lacked any better ideas to explain why we didn't manage to charm those who should have loved us from the start. How to Overcome Your Childhood is a book that teaches us how character is developed, the concept of emotional inheritance, the formation of our concepts of being good or bad, and the impact of parental styles of love on the way we choose adult partners.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts about that video? I thought that was an excellent video. I liked the title, Parents of Love. You know, that's interesting. How do parents love? And, you know, once again, depending on how you were raised and as an adult, a lot of times is how we're going to love our children. You know, if you grew up in a house that was non-loving, chances are you could be non-loving with your very own children. Doesn't mean that you're going to be, but chances are that you can be. You know, I just think about my childhood. I was raised in a single parent childhood by my mother because my father was murdered when I was 2 years of age. So I didn't have a father. But my mother showered me and my brothers and sisters with love. And she was very, very unconditional and just consistent. And got a lot of great qualities from my mother. And those qualities I got from my mother, I provided with my daughters, my 4 adult daughters. So I also worked in the criminal justice system for 20 years and K-12 education for 10 years. So I have 30 years of working with children from all socioeconomic backgrounds and saw a lot of bad things happen to kids in the criminal justice system, as well as K-12 education, and just how detached so many of these kids are from their parents. And I meet a lot of adults today that don't even deal with their parents or mess with their parents. And it's crazy to me as an adult of 4 adult daughters, a father of 4 adult daughters, rather. I can't imagine not having a relationship with my adult daughters. It's just crazy. They're living their best lives in their own lives. They're adult women, but not to have contact with my girls or speak with my girls, I don't understand it. I really don't. So another excellent video, fathers. And like I said, just wanted to share it with you. And, you know, we got to make that difference in our baby girls' lives. They have to feel, our children have to feel loved unconditionally as well as conditionally. And they have to understand what that looks like through action, not words, through action. And I've met a lot of kids in my life that have not been loved, and they make adults pay through their acting out, and a lot of times just with their behaviors. So fathers, we have a huge responsibility to make sure that we get that right birth to 18 years of age. So, all right, I want to share this next video number 3, fathers. Let me get it ready. Okay, fathers, this next video is called How Much Are Parents to Blame for Bad Classroom Behavior? And
Mental health and wellness expert Adam.
one of the things when I was a dean of students and restorative justice coordinator teacher with Denver Public Schools from 2003 to 2014. I held those 3 positions while I was with Denver Public Schools, and saw a lot of behaviors from children. And everything starts at home, parents. We cannot blame the educational system. We cannot blame the teachers. We cannot blame the counselors. We cannot blame the psychologists and that work at the schools. It's our responsibility. Our children end up. And so many times you just see parents that are they're totally clueless and they're detached from their child's behavior. They don't take accountability because they themselves were probably raised the same way, so they raise their children the same ways. And so many of these kids are so many of them are out of control. And parents, they're just not accountable, a lot of parents. And I dealt with it a lot. Not so much in middle school when I was a restorative justice coordinator in middle school, and then I became a dean of students in high school. But in high school, so many of these parents, they just don't support the schools, they don't support teachers, they blame everything on the schools, and they never take a look at themselves and why their kids are jacked up. You can't tell these parents their kids are jacked up. They know their kids are jacked up, but so many of them would rather be friends with their children instead of being parents of their kids. Okay, so let's get to this next video.
KHU 11 Investigates has been looking into violent disturbances in the classroom, and boy, have we been getting a ton of reaction. Elementary school teachers are reportedly being harassed and bullied by their own students. We invited 8 teachers from different school districts in the area to share their stories to learn what is going on in their classrooms.
I too have been scratched.
2 kids fighting, and I got in there, broke them up like this.
Spit in my face.
I got beat up by a second grader.
The other kid just kept swinging, broke my ribs.
Those teachers told us the parents were a big part of the problem, taking their kids' side and making excuses for them. Teachers say changing attitudes is key. So what can parents do to make life easier for their kids and teachers? Adam Bennett spoke to school districts and KHOU's mental health and wellness expert. Adam, exactly what are they saying?
So, Mia, they're saying that there's no one reason for why kids act out in the classroom, and also there's no one cure-all either. But our mental health and wellness expert says if those kids don't have structure around them, they are guaranteed to act out.
Raising kids has never been easy.
When social media becomes a babysitter, it's a problem.
And KHOU health and wellness expert Bill Prasad says kids are constantly going through new changes and facing new challenges.
Parents have to set boundaries, but it's very, very difficult, and parents have to be consistent.
But Prasad says parents are under a lot of pressure too, some working multiple jobs and raising several kids. He also says, in general, trust in the government has been dropping for several decades.
We're finding that now playing itself out consistently in the classroom, where the parents at times don't trust the teachers, and at times they side with their kids. Or they say, well, that couldn't be my kid. My child wouldn't do that.
To break that cycle of bad behavior, Prasad recommends parents connect with their teachers and school counselors. He also says mom and dad need to be willing to hear some tough critiques and take a tough look at how they discipline.
Generally, spanking makes the child angry and fearful, and it's over. Whereas if I pull a sleepover out of your weekend, you are going to spend the whole weekend thinking about that.
Now, some districts like Houston ISD and Fort Bend ISD do hold classes or have events where parents can come and learn how to help their kids in the classroom. They can meet the teachers and staff and also get connected to resources. Now, we want to hear what you think about this trend. You can join the conversation on the KHOU Facebook page. Len and Mia.
This has been a big talker, Adam, and we're getting your take at home. What would keep teachers from getting bullied and attacked in the classroom? Your options here: more parent involvement, tougher discipline for students, changing laws. Go ahead and vote on the KHOU 11 mobile app or KHOU.com/vote now. We'll check for the results coming up at 6.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts on that video? Because I'm gonna give you mine. Now, when it comes to parenting, right, this is what's crazy to me. I have never understood how so many parents take the responsibility of their children and place it on someone else when it comes to their children's behavior. When I saw it in the educational system, it was just crazy to me. My daughters understood when they left the Martin household, they were going to be on their best behavior. They were never going to talk back to their teachers. And that was the parents' responsibility if there was a problem. They're not going to talk back to adults. My daughters were respectful, birth to 18. They never talked back to adults. They didn't talk back to their elders. That is lacking today. So many of these kids run their households. And it's just crazy to me. When I see videos like this, you have a 5-6-year-old hitting teachers, and the parents are up there acting like they don't know they got a badass child. That's crazy as hell to me. You know your kids are bad because you let them do whatever. And it just doesn't make any sense, because then what happens is you release them to the world and it multiplies. Because so many of these kids will end up in the criminal justice system. And then the parents are going to fault the criminal justice system for intervening, right? You don't like the government, but you don't have a problem with them legislating your child. Yeah, it takes legislation to rear a lot of these children. See, I come from the criminal justice system, so I could talk about the legislation of children, because that's what I dealt with for 20 years working in the criminal justice system. The legislation of children. When parents fail their kids, this is what happens. The criminal justice system eventually will get involved through the Department of Human Services, aka Social Services, aka Child Support Services, Child Protection Services. I'm sorry. And then parents got a problem with that, because there's a lot of parents that are so detached and in their own world. And they got these babies that they've turned over to the world. And the village does not get the opportunity to help rear these children because the parents are not taking the lead. That's how the village works, parents. It takes a village to raise children. But in order for the village to be effective, the parents have to take the lead. That's how the village works. That's how my village worked growing up. But in today's world, social media, we want to change up stuff, do whatever. We want to be buddy-buddy with our kids, be friends. These parents know their kids are bad as hell. They know it. And they know when they send them to school, all it is daycare. So them having 6-7 hours to themselves, not having to deal with their little badass children, they know it. And it's just crazy to me. I cannot imagine my daughters, me getting a phone call when my daughters were 6, 7, that they hit a teacher, that they were using foul language, that they were being verbally abusive. I can't even imagine, because everything begins at home. But so many of these adult parents want to pass the responsibility to the schools. And then when the criminal justice system gets involved, because they eventually will through legislation, parents, be careful what you ask for. Be very, very careful what you ask for. Because when I hear about toddlers hitting adults, it makes no sense to me. Gotta look at the parents. It's their fault. Crazy. All right. Let's take a look at this next video. This next video is going to be addressing children literacy.
Which
Okay, fathers of daughters. So this next video, we're going to be taking a look at the literacy crisis in the United States of America. It's a problem. And for parents to not know that their kids can't read or write, once again, the failure of parents. When parents fail their children, you do understand it takes both the mother and the father to have a successful child. That's how it works, parents. A father can't do it by himself, and a mother can't do it by herself. Okay, it takes both parents. That's what it is. We do have a fatherless epidemic in the United States of America. We don't have a motherless epidemic. We have a fatherless epidemic. So all fathers need to be on board and on deck in rearing their children. You can't leave this up to the mothers by themselves. It is not fair to them. Whether you are married or divorced, it's not fair to the mothers to be raising your children by themselves. You help bring them into this world. It is your responsibility, fathers, as well. All right. Here we go.
Here's ABC's Gerald Bryant with tonight's Prime Focus.
Gotta watch the baseball.
Little League batting practice
Straighten it out.
in the 90-degree Louisiana heat, a sign that Demekus and Kesney Cook want the best for their kids.
All right, let's get some hits, buddy.
And it's that love that turned to panic not long ago.
There's got to be a lot of sleepless nights that come with that.
Yes. Because you're worried.
Sight, sound.
All because when he started second grade 2 years ago,
Touch.
learning to read wasn't clicking for Demekus Jr.
Sound it out for me. Explain.
It's almost as if we question ourselves, like, is our child the only one going through this? Almost as if it was.
But there are millions.
That's right.
Traveling the country, we learned Demekus and his parents are far from alone.
We had spark. Okay. So what was our word?
What we found is a story about kids.
What does it feel like when you read?
Hard. I'll get mad and sad, and I just say I can't do it no more. I can't do it.
What does inspiration mean?
About the fierce coast-to-coast debate over how to teach them to read.
What do you do here? What do you work on here?
Reading.
Okay. All right. Follow the steps.
And about an often overlooked race against time facing every school in the country
Horse.
to help struggling students read before it's too late.
The older that a child gets, the harder it is.
All right. We're going to try another one. Ready?
America has faced troubling reading scores for as long as the government has kept track. Every year since 1992, the Department of Education has found roughly 1/3 of the country's fourth graders read below what's considered the basic level. In eighth grade, that number gets better, but not by much. 1 in every 4 students. In Warrensville Heights, Ohio, just outside Cleveland,
You have to love what you're doing.
33-year teaching veteran Carla Pleasant explained to us helping a struggling reader is about intervening early.
The younger you get them. So after about, I would say, second or third grade, it gets really tough.
Just raise your hand. Does anyone here feel stressed sometimes when they read?
These students we met in a summer school class down the hall are nearing the end of that window. They're in 3rd grade and told us what they experience when they read.
How does it feel when you come across a word you don't know?
I get sad.
You get sad.
David here was brave enough to give reading out loud
Wait,
a
what's
try.
that one? That was one of the words we were learning earlier. That last word right there.
Front.
Try that one more time. You got it?
Frat.
So it's raft.
Frat.
And this was one of those words we were talking about earlier. Good job.
Sniff.
Yeah, sniffs.
Sniff.
What David used to figure out that last word is what we saw and heard.
Say snore. Snore. Tap phonies.
Reading specialist Chantel Barhorst
We're listening for the sound.
teaching to try to get these students up to speed.
Okay, read one more time for me.
It's called phonics, the sounds and letters that make up a word. A once popular scientific approach, proponents say, which allows students to decode the whole word, then the sentence, and ultimately what's on the page. Steps that come almost naturally for some students, but not everyone.
So it's helping them crack the code. So how many phoneme boxes do we need?
But not everybody teaches reading the way you do. Does that surprise you?
Unfortunately, no.
For years, Carla Pleasant says many classrooms in Warrensville Heights didn't teach reading that way either. Their solution to reach struggling readers was a teaching style called balanced literacy, which is still popular in many schools across the country. It's designed to develop a love of reading and a comfort with books, but it can also involve suggesting students guess certain words.
Cookies is the picture.
And even look at pictures to decipher the words on the page, something instructors took to calling picture power. One problem, Pleasant says,
I could tell it was not working.
Why?
Because the students weren't performing.
So she reversed course, took to teaching phonics under the table.
And you were keeping that secret
Keeping it
from your
this-
bosses.
Keeping it secret from the bosses, but getting the success in the classroom.
A new school administration eventually followed her lead and began requiring the kind of meticulous phonics instruction
Let's tap it together.
you saw in class earlier. And Warrensville Heights Elementary went from low reading scores to an A rating with the state. Now this school is an example for Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine, who's moving to require all state schools teach phonics and other similar strategies, often called the science of reading. A plan to reach struggling readers, first pioneered in a state that some educators had written off as a lost cause. Mississippi. A decade ago, students here ranked last in reading, 50th out of 50 states. Today, Mississippi is 21st in the nation in literacy. And in educational circles, that seemingly impossible turnaround even earned its own name.
You know what they call what happened here?
We've heard.
The Mississippi Miracle.
Right.
How did you pull that off?
We don't necessarily think that it should be a miracle that children learn to read.
In this classroom, Dr. Kimyana Burke, the state's former literacy director, showed us how she brought her state back from the brink.
Yeah, you see me just smiling, right? I can't stop smiling.
Asking the state's teachers to lean hard into phonics, the way her generation and her parents' generation learned to read.
Now he chooses a brush.
Instruction, she says, that was virtually missing in Mississippi classrooms and still is in many states because it fell out of fashion.
It was really kind of this aha moment around there's a lot of work that we have to do here.
Are you saying schools were just graduating kids who didn't fundamentally know how to read?
Yeah, it's happened all across the country.
Burke, now with a reading nonprofit, is looking for other states to follow Mississippi's lead.
Mississippi proved that you can be poor, you can be Black, you can be Hispanic, you can be all of those things, and you can still be taught how to read.
So far, by the start of this school year, at least 30 states, including D.C. and New York City, have agreed requiring phonics instruction and other science of reading education to address sagging reading scores. Skeptics of the phonics movement say it's an educational fad, just like balanced literacy once was. And there's no one-size-fits-all solution to America's reading crisis.
Yeah. So how many phonemes? 3.
And it's not just on teachers. Educators say familiarizing kids with letters, words, and books starts at home.
Are you saying that right now in the United States, a parent can send their child to school and it's not guaranteed if they will learn how to read?
Yes.
I think people would find that alarming.
Yes, it is alarming.
Back where we started, in Louisiana, the state has overhauled how it's teaching reading to help students
She washed.
like our little leaguer, Demekus Cook. Demekus also gets help from a state-funded tutoring program, paying for private instruction on phonics and other skills for Demekus.
So number 4 is right? Yep.
And the other students we met at this Sylvan Learning Center.
And what happens when you come up to a big word? What do?
I try my best.
They're so excited and they cry in my office because it's life-changing. It's life-changing.
Do these issues predate COVID or?
Oh, absolutely.
Christy Sharon has owned this tutoring center for more than 25 years and warns what can happen when a student doesn't get help early.
Oftentimes, we may get a third grader who can't read at all, that we have to go back to basics.
You're saying for decades you've had third graders walk into this building who can't read at all?
Yes, we have. Yes, it's more common than not. I had a 9th grader once that came in and he couldn't read at all. And he didn't know his letters. And
9th grade.
9th grade.
Determined Demekus wouldn't fall through the cracks, the Cook family is overjoyed that his swing isn't the only thing that's gotten better with time and practice.
How does it feel when you read now?
Good.
Reading is the key to life.
A key every kid needs, but one millions of American students still don't have.
We can get these children early and we can teach them to read. They can do anything.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Okay, fathers, what are your thoughts on that video? Excellent video. So, my opinion as a criminal justice professional and as an educator, I'm not going to put 100% of the blame on parents. I'm going to put 50% of the blame on parents, 50% of the blame on the educational system. And let me explain to you why. As you saw in this video, right? I'm a 70s baby. I grew up in the 1970s. We had to learn how to write cursive. We were stuck on phonics. And it's amazing to me that the school districts throughout the United States decided to try this new approach to reading and writing. I don't understand a lot of times what these school districts in the United States are doing. It just doesn't make any sense. Why are you changing something that obviously works? With my very own daughters, it was all phonics. I started reading with my daughters when they were about 1 year old. Through pictures, through language, through phonics. That's the way my daughters were learned. That's the way they were taught. The way I was taught. I turned out pretty good. Gen X, we turned out pretty good. We could read, we could write. I've met so many children that can't read or write. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And their parents are acting like they didn't know this, which is crazy, right? So let's talk about the 50% of parents that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, the parents that were in here that were working with their son, I commend them because at least they saw what the problem was and they're looking at interventions to help their child become better, right? They're just not relying on the school district. So many parents, they don't give a damn. They ain't trying to help their child get better through reading and writing. And the one thing I know from working with children for 30 years is when a child can't read or write, they withdraw. They end up wanting to drop out of school and quit school. For a lot of kids, a lot of them end up in the criminal justice system because they can't read and they can't write. And that makes absolutely no sense, parents. So parents, you gotta be on top of this. You can't rely on the school district. Cursive writing is no longer mandatory. I had to teach all my daughters how to write in cursive because the schools got away from that, which is crazy. How can you read the Constitution of the United States of America if you can't write in cursive? Everything is printed now. It's just crazy to me. Cursive writing should be mandatory, but schools are not making it happen. So parents, guess what? It falls on you. If you want your kids to learn how to write in cursive, you got to teach them. I taught all my daughters. I went old school on my daughters. The way I learned how to write cursive, writing A through Z 100 different times, that's how I taught my daughters. I went the old school route of the 70s when I was in elementary school. The booklets and the tablets we had to repeat words over and over and over through repetition to comprehend. Reading is comprehension. Parents, come on now. Don't fail your kids like this. So just want to share this video. I'm not going to really go in on parents. But parents, you can't be blaming the school districts. 100%. You got to own this. This is your household. These are your children. Do not rely on the school districts. That's just absolutely crazy. They're part of the village, but you can't put all the onus on the schools. Okay, fathers, let's take a look at this next video. Let's see here. This next video that I'm getting ready to show you is talking about addiction and how some of these parents are failing their kids because of their addiction. Okay, fathers, here we go with this next video.
Hi, baby girl. Tori Brinkman has always been a survivor, born 15 weeks early, a tiny pound and a half, and that was just the beginning of her struggle. For the first 10 years of her life, she lived with a mother addicted to heroin. Their history together shows how savage the grip of addiction can be. Today, Tori is a remarkably composed 14-year-old telling her story her way.
What do you remember about those early years and your mom?
She never ate. She'd have maybe a Coke a day, no water, and then go right back to bed. And she'd never take care of me, never feed me. I had to feed myself. I consider myself as the parent and my mom the kid.
Do you think your mom sold drugs?
Yeah, I know she did.
She got in trouble for that?
Yeah. One time, I think I was around 7 or 8, she actually made me do a drug deal for her.
A drug deal? Like, what did she ask you to do?
She put some either heroin or cocaine in a napkin or something, and she said, run up to that house, go get the money, and give this to him.
Tori says she never got any health care growing up.
None until I was 10. Never went to the dentist. I had never been to the dentist before.
What about pediatrician, doctor?
Nope. No? Nothing.
Her mom told Tori not to tell anyone about the things she saw in their home, but Tori would call her grandparents when they ran out of food. 3 years ago, Lillian and Richard were awarded legal custody.
When she first came to live with us permanently, she was blaming herself. Maybe if I was better, Mom wouldn't have done the drugs.
And it wasn't just Tori's mom abusing heroin in their home. It was also her uncle, the closest person Tori had to a father figure.
What happened to your uncle?
He passed away November 20th, 2015 from a drug overdose.
Heroin?
Mm-hmm.
That must have been super hard for you.
Yeah, because, I mean, he basically took care of me instead of my mom. Like, if my mom was asleep, he'd take care of me. And so it was just, it was sad. Hang on.
You want a Kleenex? I have one.
I got one over here.
Okay. Come here.
This is really hard stuff to talk about.
At 14 years old, Tori has seen enough pain for a lifetime, making her spirit and attitude today all the more impressive.
Here's a big question.
Okay.
Why are you talking to us?
Because I want to spread awareness of how drugs have not only affected my life, but have probably affected a lot of other kids' lives. And I want to just help people.
Tori's mother knows that she's sharing this story. She's been sober now for 3 years. She's working 2 jobs. Tori tells us that she's proud of her mother, and the two of them see each other every week. And Lester, with nearly 1 million people in the U.S. saying that they admit to using heroin, that means there are hundreds of thousands of stories like Tori's.
I'm just blown away. She's 14, wise beyond her years, but
Absolutely.
then think of what she's seen.
She's grown up too quickly, her grandmother says.
All right, Kate, thank you. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Okay, fathers of daughters. Needed to show that video was necessary. And I dealt with that a lot when I was a state juvenile probation officer for the state of Colorado. 90 to 95% of the little girls that I supervised on probation were runaway little girls, and 90% of them were on drugs and alcohol. This is what I dealt with in the criminal justice system. That baby girl, 14 years of age, when parents fail their children. Then she lost her uncle to addiction as well. So when I came across these kids that were jacked up in the criminal justice system, I understand, because that's what I dealt with. And the reality is simple. When adults fail their children, chances are their children are going to become victims of the criminal justice system through legislation, because that's what happens. See, these kids end up somewhere, and the majority of them that end up in the criminal justice system, like this baby girl, thank God she had her grandparents. Thank God the grandparents were able to get custody, because she wouldn't end up going to foster care, and God only knows what would have happened to her in foster care. Foster care is not good for kids. There are successful kids that come out of foster care, but the majority of them do not. The majority of children that go into foster care, they all have a story. And I would advise anyone, if you ever come across a child that was in foster care and they're willing to share their story with you, listen to what they have to say. It is not good. Most of these kids have been sexually assaulted and sexually abused, taken advantage of. So many adults have failed them time after time after time after time. And that's why they are the way that they are. So by the grace of God, this baby girl had her grandparents. God bless them. Not every child is fortunate enough. And when they end up in the criminal justice system, guess what? The criminal justice system is going to do something. That's what it is, parents. So when we fail our children, we are turning them over to the government. That's what's going to happen, because the government's going to intervene. And there's nothing you can do about it. Once the government gets involved, very difficult to get out of the criminal justice system once they come into your life. I can promise you that. Okay, parents, here we go. This next video. Okay, this next video. Can the U.S. end teen pregnancy? Okay. Okay, fathers, next video.
So right now, teen birth rates are already really low, but there are still a few things that states can do to reduce their rates even further. The teen birth rate is at 24.2 births per 1,000 women in the age group of 15 to 19-year-olds, down 9% from 2013. And that's the lowest among that age group since they started keeping track in 1940. But as of 2011, the U.S. still had the highest teen pregnancy rate among 21 similar countries. The evidence is mostly anecdotal, but there are a couple of reasons why these countries have lower teen pregnancy rates. One thing is they just have more widely accessible birth control pills. One of the factors is also income inequality. But there's also different attitudes about teen sex. So in the Netherlands, the teen birth rate is several times lower than it is in the US. American parents tend to fear teen sexuality, while Dutch parents have a more accepting attitude. Something that the researcher Amy Chalet found was that Dutch parents say something like, "We permit it so that we can control it." Teenagers there are more likely to have sex for the first time at home, with their parents knowing about it, and they're also more likely to use condoms their first time. Teen pregnancy rates in general tend to be lower in the Northeast and higher in the South and Southwest. Poverty, culture, religion, and other factors are associated with those rates, but that doesn't mean states can't change their fate. So in the early 90s, for example, California had one of the worst teen birth rates in the nation, but it reduced it by 60% by promoting comprehensive and medically accurate sex ed in schools. And it also reached out to teens and parents in the community with sexual health information. Only 24 states mandate teaching sex ed. The percentage of schools teaching sex ed across a range of topics has actually declined in recent years. Only 18 states require kids to get information about contraceptives. What doesn't work is telling kids to pledge to be abstinent until marriage. That works fine if the teens are extremely religious, but if they're not, they end up breaking their pledges. And because they never learned about condoms or birth control, they're more likely to get pregnant or get STDs than if they had never pledged to begin with. And some studies show that states that emphasize abstinence have higher teen pregnancy rates and birth rates. And teens who receive comprehensive sex ed in one study were 60% less likely to get pregnant. Sex ed is just the start, but it's a good start.
Okay, fathers, what do you think about that video talking about teen pregnancy? See, this is a reality when you have daughters. A couple things, fathers. You're either going to be involved and explain to your daughters and talk to them about their bodies, how their bodies are developing, how their bodies are growing, or you're not. Those are our two choices as fathers, right? And I can tell you this, since I come across so many people that are just anti-God, anti-religion, and they don't want to talk to their kids about anything other than whatever, a free-for-all, pretty much. It's stated that when you're growing up in a religious household, chances of your daughters getting pregnant are going to be a lot lower. I agree with that because that's what I came across when I was a state juvenile probation officer and also working in K-12 education. Little girls that went to church that had a spiritual connection, that had a spiritual background, most of them weren't pregnant. The pregnant girls that I came across are the ones that have parents that just let them do whatever. In the criminal justice system and K-12 education. So you can't take parents away from me. Okay, it's not a generalization, and it doesn't factor in all little girls. Okay, I'm just explaining to you my experience and what I saw and what I dealt with. And what this video is talking about, fathers, if we don't have these discussions, I started talking with each one of my daughters when they were 5 years of age. I explained to them their bodies. I explained to them how their bodies were going to be developing. As their father, I'd rather it come from me, their dad, and their peer group of misinformation. Because if we don't do this, fathers, they're going to get this information from somewhere. And their peer group is not going to be accurate. Okay? So fathers, we have a prime responsibility to start speaking with our daughters. Whatever age you feel is appropriate. Like I said, with my daughters, it was 5. So I don't tell fathers what to do. I explain what's coming, though. I explain that through my live streams. I explain that through my book because it is coming. And you can pretend like your daughters aren't going to reach puberty and their bodies are going to be developing and they're not going to be interested in sex. You can pretend all you want. But at the end of the day, if they end up pregnant, it falls on us, fathers. That. Okay. Let's take a look at this next video, fathers. Got a couple more videos left. And then we'll wrap up this live stream. Hopefully the information that I provided to you today will be helpful and educational for you fathers. Okay, this next video, Entertaining Angels. It's talking about. Let's see here. Okay, dads, here we go.
I want to talk about entertaining people and enjoy hospitality. You know, Hebrews 13 verse 2 tells us that we must be careful to entertain strangers because some of us have entertained angels unawares. That in itself proves that angels indeed can manifest themselves to look as human beings. Because if we were to entertain an angel looking in its full glory, we would surely know that it's an angel. But the Bible says that we must be careful to entertain strangers, because some of us have entertained angels unawares. And so that proves that they can manifest themselves as humans. So that person that you give, that comes knocking at your door, or that you see in the street, maybe it's even a hobo, homeless man. Maybe it's whoever it might be. That person that you have helped could indeed be an angel. And the Bible says that although we are justified not by works, we are justified by our faith, the Bible does also say that faith without works is dead. You cannot bless your brother, see him in need, or your sister and see her in need and just bless them and then walk away. Then your faith is truly dead. But if you bless them and you help them, your faith is indeed active and working, because works accompany faith. And that person that you might have fed might turn out to be an angel, as Hebrews 13 verse 2 tells us. That's not just a story, brothers and sisters, to help us to do good to our fellow brethren. It might be true. And the Bible says that every man will be judged according to his works in the flesh, whether good or bad. Now your salvation is dependent solely upon Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. Okay? Because all of us fall short of the glory of God. We must look to the cross. We must seek him and look to him to cover our sins, because it's by grace that we are saved. Okay? You can never pay for your own sins. In fact, the Bible says our righteous deeds are filthy rags. Our righteous deeds, not our wicked deeds, our best deeds are like filthy rags before God. In other words, it's a stench before God. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, the Bible also does say that we'll be judged by our works. Okay, whether good or bad. And so the next time you help somebody that's in need, keep in mind that person that comes knocking at your door could in fact be an angel in disguise. And that deed that you do may testify either for you or against you on the day of judgment. Furthermore, some people have entertained demons unawares. That prostitute that you hire, that woman that you look at on the magazine cover, that causes you to lust when she displays her body, often prostitutes her, may in fact be a demon in disguise. If angels, which are those that remain loyal to God, if we can entertain them unawares, then surely those who followed Satan and angels, demons, might be able to manifest themselves too as humans to come and tempt you. That woman that comes to you at work that tries to seduce you, to cause you to commit adultery on your wife. That man that you lust after. Which is supposed to be directed towards your husband, may in fact be a demon in disguise. For all you know. How would you know? That child, that little child of all kinds of sweet things that are contrary to sound doctrine, to the word of God, could in fact be a demon. Those men who claim to have died and gone to hell and bring you false gospels and tell you to get out of the Bible, to get out of the word of God. They could be demons manifesting in the flesh. You do not know. So therefore, be very vigilant who you help and who lures you away from the truth. Brothers,
Okay, fathers and daughters. I'm sure some of you may have an issue with me sharing this video, but guess what? I don't care. It's my YouTube channel. I'm going to do what I want to do. I felt it was necessary to share this particular video. Once again, I'm all about solutions here at Grow Dad YouTube channel. I'm not here to make anyone comfortable, and I'm not here to enable any father. I'm here for solutions, point blank, period. So if you're on board, cool. If not, keep it pushing, keep it moving. I really don't care. But So fathers, we have one more video and then we are done. Let's take a look at this next video. I see my live stream is still freezing, so I have to apologize. It's been freezing throughout today's live stream. Technical issues. You know how. So today's been a challenging day when it comes to the technology because I'm freezing. So this is the last video, fathers, and then we're going to wrap up this live stream. I appreciate your patience.
No idea who they are, and their house smells different, and maybe they have a dog and they have
Okay. All right, fathers, here's the last video.
being taken from place to place and being sent to a whole new different city and a whole new different family and people that you've never met before. It's a really confusing experience. You just feel torn away from your community. It's like, just imagine that you were going to work one day and it's just a normal day and you're on your way to work and everything is as it's supposed to be, and you watered your dog and you drink your coffee and you tell your kids goodbye and you go to work, and then the police show up at your job and they say, okay, we're moving you to a totally different city and you don't know anybody and you can't call your family and you can't call any of your friends and you need to leave your phone here and you can't take any of your stuff with you. We'll figure that out later. And they just pick you up and they transport you to a totally different place and then tell you to just wait in this room for a little while because we're going to figure things out. And then they come and bring you a little sack luncheon, and then just a few more hours and we're going to figure this out. Just here, play with this little toy, okay, put this little ring on a hook. And then they send you to these these really well-meaning people but you have no idea who they are, and their house smells different, and maybe they have a dog, and they have hardwood floors, you've only ever had carpet, like everything about the experience is alien to you. And all you want is to be able to contact the people that you have a bond with. It's a very disrupting experience. And in a lot of ways, it's a traumatic experience because all of these things are unexpected, and suddenly everything in your world that you felt was safe and secure and concrete is not. And having those ideas shattered is really difficult, especially as a child, because you need that security. You need to know that here's my bed, I can come home to it, and this is where it's going to be, and that's going to be okay. Or here's my mom, and no matter what, she's going to be there for me, and I can just call her and she'll show up, and that's going to be okay. When you can't believe that anymore, it starts to make you question, well, what can you believe? Who can you trust? What is a for sure thing? You begin to stop valuing certain things. You stop valuing relationships because they're not concrete and they're not going to be there forever. And you stop investing yourself in certain things. And all of a sudden, stability isn't really important to you. Having goals isn't important to you. You are concerned with where are you going to sleep tonight? Are you going to be safe? Who are these people? Doing a simple thing like taking a shower in a stranger's home is a very disconcerting experience. So the more that you get moved around, the more trauma that you endure in that. Every single move is a traumatic experience. So you can see the consequences later on. And really you can see the consequences pretty early on. As a child who's in foster care, I exhibited signs of not being able to trust other people, of not wanting to connect. I had some really antisocial behavior. I also had a deep dislike for government agencies, for the police, for social workers. Like, I did not believe that they were on my team, because when I'm telling you that this is what I need and you're just not listening and you're saying, well, this is what we feel you need, I can't trust you any longer. As a child, you do not have the capacity to forward think. You are not able to. And scientifically, your brain isn't even wired to do that yet. And so the decisions that you're making are pure emotional. When you're dealing with a traumatic situation and when the people around you don't have the tools to help you deal with that, the decisions that you're making are pure instinctive. And so I just know that if I have this incredible amount of sadness and this incredible amount of fear and I don't know what to do with it, well, maybe I should just run away. Maybe I should do drugs. Maybe I should get in fights. Maybe I should cuss out my foster parents. There's all kinds of different things that happen. None of those things were planned. All of those things were unintended consequences because I didn't know how to deal with the original emotions that I was facing. And so I really just want people to understand that these kids just need help. I don't understand how there's so much funding for foster care benefits, for adoption benefits, for emergency shelters. There's so much funding for that, but there's no funding for family preservation. And had my mom just had a little bit of help, had she have had enough money to buy her own vehicle, had she had enough money to relocate herself from an abusive situation, had she not had to depend on men in the first place for any kind of financial stability, I don't believe that she would have made some of the decisions that she would have made. I don't believe that she would have struggled as a mother, because my mom is a good mom. She just had some hardships and she had nobody to help her. And so I don't understand how there's so much funding to take us away, but there's no funding to keep us there.
Okay, fathers, another live stream. What are your thoughts, fathers? Feel free to leave comments. Would love to hear from you, fathers of daughters. That was an excellent video. I'm glad I saved that one for last because she made a great point. There's funding to take us away, but not funding to keep us in our families. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, fathers. That was live stream number 44. Next week, we have another live stream. I shall be on at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time next week without the internet interruptions. Yeah, this was a good one, but this was a challenging one. Okay, fathers, appreciate you. Want you to have a great week with your children. with your babies. Kiss them children. Love them, validate them. Summer's here. They're getting ready to get out of school. Enjoy them. Enjoy them, fathers, because they don't stay little forever. All right? Fathers, until next week's live stream, you know the routine. I'm Ephraim B. Martin, Grow Dad YouTube channel. I'm out. Peace.